Hi everyone. I want to thank you all for being here. It's a great pleasure to be speaking to all of you guys, and I want to thank Maxon for inviting me for the second year in a row. It's great to be among all of these incredible artists, so thank you, Maxon. My name is Domingos. I'm a freelance 3D motion designer, and I've been working for Piranha Bar in Dublin for the last 7.5 years. And just recently decided to jump into the abyss of the freelance world. I've been a 3D journalist for all of my career, so I've been working for 20 years now. I've done a bit of everything from modeling to rigging to simulations, VFX, and I've used Maya, Softimage, and Mental Ray even, and Arnold. But at some point around 4 years ago, I decided to focus on something, and motion design was something that I always loved, and that's what I decided to focus on. And I had been learning Cinema 4D for a while, and it was the perfect tool for me, and it definitely let me put my ideas on screen easily. So I'm going to show my showreel here, and it's not the most updated showreel, but you can access all my updated work on my Behance and Instagram. Right, so as I was saying before, Cinema 4D gave me that ability to put on screen what I had in my head easily. And so I started doing some little small personal projects. And all those projects that I've been doing actually have a purpose of teaching me something, you know. So I choose a tool, I choose a renderer, or I choose a technique, and I create something around it. So the project that I want to show you guys today, it's called Plasticity. Started learning Cinema 4D soft bodies and rigid bodies, and I wanted to do a piece around it. What I have here is just a teaser, but I really want to show you guys anyway, and I really want to give a shout out to Folding Waves, a studio in Dublin that made the audio for this. So the project we are going to look at today is actually a shot for this piece that I'm working on. And I actually felt that it was a simple enough technique, and the result was interesting. So I felt it was good to show it here. So I hope you enjoy. Let's jump into Cinema 4D. So I have the scene here. So this is pretty simple. Of course, we're going to go through all of this, but I'm basically using this is like an alembic baked from a simulation, and then I have a field force. I actually have some stuff hidden here. So these are the actual ribbons made with the cloner, and then after baking that to an alembic, I use a fracture and to separate them to be able to shade them and all that. I'm also using Grayscale's Gorilla Light Kit Pro to light the scene. And I have a few forces, and I have a random here for the color, and I have a simple shader here. So let's start over, and I'm gonna actually save it before everything. These are all my tests and scenes. So we're gonna start version 7 and start by creating a simple plane and changing the orientation here. So let's just change the size here. So I want a thin ribbon. I'm actually going to close this so I have more space there. Also, I want the segments to be more even, so not this one. So I'm going to up the segments here. I think 50, it's fine. And I'm going to use a cloner. Okay, so if you don't, I'm using a grid array. If you don't have this by default, I think the default is object. For some reason, I have this as default. So just change their position here to put them closer together. Yeah, this is the starting point. So I might need to change the thickness a bit here. Okay, cool. So now next step is to make them soft bodies. So just create a soft body tag, and immediately they are soft bodies. And if I play this, you can see that they fall. I actually don't want gravity, so if I press Ctrl D, go to the Dynamics tab, General, I can actually put the gravity to 0. This is a global gravity value for the scene. Just taking a sip of my coffee here. Okay, so we have the first steps done. So it's not falling anymore, so it's perfect. So now what I want to do here is use a force. I want to use that spiral force that you've seen in the render there. So to do that, I'm going to use the great field force. And the field force is basically a playground for you to create your custom force using fields, and that's really useful. And I'm not going to go too complex here, but I think even doing it in a simple way, you will be able to understand how powerful this is. Okay, so first of all, I want a spiral force, right? So the field that we have here that will help us is the radial field. So if I apply the radial field and just press play, you start having something, but this is not what you want, right? So there's a few things here. So the force is acting globally, even outside of these boundaries, so it's still acting. So I don't want that, right? I want to make sure that the force only acts in the center here, and also the direction is not correct. So I think I deleted the radial force by mistake. Okay. Another thing that I want to call attention to is actually you can see the vectors, the force vectors, which is very useful. So if you come here, so the size of them depends a bit on the strength or the display. So if you change the strength, of course you can see them bigger, but you can also go to display and change the length here. So you can do that, but oops, I keep undoing this. So I will want a bigger strength, so I'm gonna put 100 here, and also I want to change the direction, right? So I can change this is not the tab to change the direction, so the easiest way to do that is actually to go there and rotate it 90 degrees. And now if I play, you can see the direction is correct, but something weird is happening here. So first of all, the field is acting, you know, like not in the center only, and that's what I want. So I want to mask it. So if I select the field here and click this icon, I can add a mask, and then I can create a spherical field and put it inside there. If you play, it's still not doing what we want because we have to turn on this, and now it's actually working almost like we want. The problem here is that the add velocity, like the name says, keeps adding velocity to the motion, and that's not what we want. We want to set an absolute value for the velocity. So now if I play, I'm getting almost what I want here. I'm actually gonna open this a bit, make it larger, so I can pick it up a bit. And we can see that, you know, we are like almost there, but we have a few things to change here. So first of all, I want to go to the soft bodies tag, and after that get a sip on my coffee. So I can actually change the bounce and the friction to 0%. I don't want that. I don't need them to kind of have friction between them. I want to facilitate that motion, so I don't want them to be tangled or kind of glued to each other or even bouncing. And also I can see that the ribbons are stretching a bit, so you can see that by looking at this at the edges here. They start getting longer. It will stretch anyway, but I don't want them to stretch here that soon. So if I go to the soft body tag and change the force, this shear force to 100 and deflection force to 100, that won't happen as much. It still stretches here, but these tips will be pulled to the center a bit faster. So it will look a bit more natural. All right, so now we have something here. I'm kind of happy with this, but I also want to add a bit of randomness to this, or kind of turbulence force would be nice. And I could definitely use the turbulence force straight away, like here. But I'm going to try and use it inside of this field force. So let me turn off these guys so I can only concentrate on the turbulence. And let's add then a random field. So the random field actually by default is not set to random, it's set to noise, which is more of a turbulent effect, right? Not a random. And you can see that here. If you go to these viewing tabs and turn on the view plane preview, you can see that this is more of a noise pattern, because if I turn on the random, this is more of a random pattern. So almost each point has a different value. But what I want is this noise, and this is great because I can see the size. If I play now, nothing happens because let me see what's happening. It should be working actually. So I have the field, I have the random field. Oh, okay, I have to turn on this. So if I don't have the vectors showing, it won't work. Okay, so now you can see that there's some deformation on those objects there, and this is actually a good amount. So I'm gonna actually turn off the view settings here, and I like the size of the noise, but I want actually to reduce the strength. So I'm gonna reduce it here, in the opacity, so maybe 22 should be fine. Okay, I want just like simple, turbulence, not too much. Okay, so now if I turn on all the other guys and play, so okay, I need to turn on this also. So we have some turbulence, and we have that spiral that we had before. Okay, so now next step is to bake all of this to an Alembic file, so we can have a real-time feedback and we can start going forward. To do that, we have to select this cloner and add a connect object here, and then just right click and bake to Alembic. I'm going to save this first. Actually, I'm going to save. I'm going to do save incremental here. And I don't need to see this, guys, also. Okay, so let's right click, bake as Alembic. Okay, actually I need more frames here, so I'm going to cancel this and add 200 frames, and now bake as Alembic. Okay, so I'm going to cut here, and I'll come back when the Alembic is ready. Okay, the Alembic is done. So as you can see, it created a new object here with the name of that connect there. So we don't need these guys for now, unless we want to simulate again. So I'm going to keep them in the scene, but I don't want to see them here. So I'm going to create a layer. So new layer called live. And if I select the parent of this tree here and press Ctrl and drag it into the layer, all the objects will be in the layer, even the actual tags and everything. So now I want to turn everything off, and even the visibility here and in the object manager. So now I have a cleaner scene. I only see my Alembic, and the forces also I'm gonna drag them in here. Cool. So let's save this. So Control Alt S just to increment a number there. And now let's see what we have here. So if I play, okay, we have a real-time playback, which is great. And I kind of like the motion. Let me add a smooth subdivision surface here, and let's see this in Gorov shading, and it's looking nice. I actually think that the cinema for these soft bodies are actually pretty stable, and the collisions are great. Like it deals with it very well. Okay, so one first thing that I don't like here is when I apply the smooth are those corners there. So I want to change the type of subdivision to open subdiv Catmull-Clark, and here I get this option to change the boundary interpolation, so edge and corner, and now I have the corners exactly how I want. And I want to add some thickness to it, so of course the good old cloth surface. I don't want subdivisions from the cloth surface, so I'm going to use only this subdivisions from here, and the thickness of 1, it's fine. So all of this now looks kind of rounded because of the normals, so I want to change these normals here to 35, so I get those edges there. If I just play this, it looks great. So next phase is actually to start lighting the scene. Okay, so to light the scene, I'm using Lightkit Pro from Grayscale Gorilla. I really love to use this, mostly for my R&D and for my tests. I also sometimes use it for final projects, but the thing is that I actually like to create my own lights. So sometimes I actually use this as a starting point and then create my own lights based on this. But it all depends. Definitely for quick projects, quick tests, this is incredibly useful. So the one I'm going to choose is the Golden Sunrise, but first of all, I'm going to choose Redshift here. So all the shaders and everything that it creates are Redshift shaders. So double click Golden Sunrise, and if I go back, so here we have the set. Well, this is a bit too small, so I'm going to change the global scale to 300, and I also want to change this to quick shading, so I don't have that overexposed viewport lighting. And I can move my object, or I can move the set. In this case, I'm going to move the set, so I'm going to just lower the set here. It comes with the camera also. You can also actually define all of that in the settings, but I'm going to use that camera actually. So let me just pull the camera up a bit. Okay, cool. And I want to turn off, actually I'm going to choose geometry only for now. Actually, just let's turn off the work plane and also axis, the world axis. Yeah, okay, so cool. So let's see now how this renders. So if I just open the Redshift render view, okay, it's not bad. I can already see that there's some more smooth subdivisions that I need here. So let me up this to 2 for now on both of them. And I think it looks fine now. But I want to go and change some settings, some Redshift settings here. So there's no global illumination turned on, so I want to do that. I normally have a preset, but I'm and also it's actually important to say that I'm using version 3.0.22. So it's still it's the experimental version, so it's the 3 point something, and they actually added something really cool, which is the automatic sampling. So if I enable automatic sampling in the samples, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to worry with this anymore. The only thing that I have to change is this adaptive error threshold. I can never pronounce that word. And so basically, if I go up in this number, I get more grain, and if I go down, I get a cleaner image. And that's it. So you don't have to mess with this anymore. So after setting up that this value here and turning on the automatic sampling, the only other thing that I do is turn on brute force, so I get bounces and all of that. And sometimes I actually up the bounces to 5, but in this case I'm going to leave them at 3, and that's it. I don't do anything else. In every project, these are the settings that I use. It always works for me. I don't care about photon mapping, radiance cache, nothing like that. This is brute force. I always get the quality I need from this. And now with the automatic sampling, it's even better. one thing that I sometimes do if the render is taking too long is actually to lower the quality here, so like 0.045 or something like that, and turn on optics, which is pretty good. Excuse me. And because I don't have like a big render power in my workstation, so if I have loads of reflections and refractions and all that, this actually works pretty well. Not every time, but most of the times it does. Okay, so these are my settings now. They are working for me. Now the next step is actually the shading. Right, so first of all, I want to go here to the lighting settings and actually up the lighting intensity a tiny bit. And let's start creating the shader then. So I'm going to try and dock this here. My resolution is not huge, so I don't have that much space, but this should be fine. And let me open the shader graph here. Okay, let's create a redshift material. I don't need this. Let's close it for now. And so what I want to do here is to actually shade all these ribbons using a ramp, and so every ribbon will have a different color, so in a random way. So to do this, there are several ways we can do this, but some don't work as well as they should, and I'm going to show the easy way now that doesn't work all the time. So first of all, let's press Shift C and add a ramp. Just let's connect the ramp to the diffuse. Actually, I have to apply the shader. So okay, so going back a bit, because I want to shade them in a random fashion, so I need to have them as clones. So each ribbon should be a clone, and the only way I have to do this actually is to use fracture. So if I use a fracture and change the mode to explode segments, now they are individual clones, and we can check that if we add, for example, a random effector. You can see that they just moved, so they are independent clones. So that's what I want, and this will simplify the shading process. Okay, so now I can apply this material, and of course, if I render this. So I have a ramp going, like through the ribbons. I also want to close this guy. Let me just adjust the interface here a bit, and I'm going to change this ramp. I have a preset library here, actually, with some that I created. I'm just going to use this and see how it looks. So. See, this is not exactly what I want. I want them to pick up each individual color. So an easy way to do this is to use a scalar user data. So if I plug this into the ramp and select MoGraph object ID normalized, that's what happens, right? So I get a color of the ramp per clone. But the problem with this is that using this method, sometimes for some reason the IDs of those clones change when I load the scene again. So every time I load the scene, or it doesn't happen every time, but I will get a different pattern, right? The colors change clone, so the IDs, there's something wrong here that I don't know what it is. So the way I found that this works the best is actually if I create random effector and use that random effector, not the position, but the value that it's stored there, if I use it in the shader. So to do that, I just need to go here and up this weight transform to 100. And then in the node here, I will select weight. And now I get a random color, not the same random number or seed that I got before, but now it's all controlled through this. So if I go to the effector here and start changing the seed, you can see that I start getting a randomness there. So I'm going to leave it default. Sometimes it's not exactly what we want, so we have to play around with the seed there. Or we can also change this. So if I just, like double the knots, I can change that, or for example, just change the type of, so these ones, for example, and you can actually move these knots here. So if you don't want this greenish color, you just like change this and you get a white there. So you have some flexibility to play around with this. Okay, so now we have what we were looking for. So let's try actually and change the shader a bit. So I think it's a bit too shiny, and so I want to change this. I want to change the roughness a bit, and I can see that there's some weirdness there. So I might up the subdivisions to 3. Yeah, so it looks better now. Okay, and also I think it would look great if we added a bokeh effect. So let's just add a redshift camera tag here, turn on the bokeh, turn on focus distance, and in the camera options, just go and click the focus where you want the focus. So I want it to be there, and I want this to be stronger, so 5. So I start getting some nice depth field. And of course, in this case, if the camera is static, like it is in this case, I don't need any special target set up here. But I could create a null and then put the null into this focus object, but I actually don't want to do that. You can also use the focus here in this render view, but I prefer to use it like this. Okay, so now we have what we want, and from now on, what I would do would be to create several cameras and kind of adjust them and rotate them and play around with them and kind of render them and edit. So this is the way I've done this. It's a pretty simple way. You can actually play around and change the beginning of this project. I created a few clones, so you can actually change the thickness, create more clones, create less clones, and play around with the forces and add different forces to the field force, different fields to the field force and all that, and you get different different styles, and you can play around with it. It's really cool. One thing that I actually want to go back to, and it's kind of a tip that I want to give you guys, is how to create a library of ramps and how that will help you, because if I actually rely a bit on this. I actually installed Cinema 4D again recently, so I don't have all my library here. But I really like to have all the colors and palettes that I like selected from me here, and also have a library of swatches that I can actually grab from. And there are a few ways that you can do this, but one of the ways that I actually like is to load an image in here So I actually have, what I'm gonna do is actually go into the second monitor here. I apologize for that, and I'm gonna just grab something from Google. So just a palette, just random palette here, and save it into my downloads folder. And okay, it's there now. So if I come here and go to my downloads and open this, you see that I have I get the image here, and then I can change, I can add some kind of targets or you know, I don't know, like big icons or something. So I can actually choose what colors do I want here, and I can keep adding these pickers or these markers and creating a palette. So if you see here, I'm creating a palette, so I can keep going and moving this guy here, and I have another one and another one. So I created this palette easily, right? So then I can go give it a name, test palette or IBC, then do this, and I have it saved now, right? So if I go there to load, I should have it somewhere. Oh no, I don't think I've saved it. Did I say no? I end up not saving it. So saving palette, yeah, I'm gonna keep this name here. Actually what I did was I renamed the folder there. So okay, load, and here it is. And then you can actually let me see if I can, let me close this guy. You can actually drag this into the ramp, and it creates a ramp for you. And if you don't want this blend, you just go select all the nodes and just change this to step. So this is an easy way for you to keep, and you also, after this, you can actually save your ramp, because in this case, with this save palette and load, is just for the palette, but here is for the ramp. So you can actually save the ramp also, and then you can come here and load the ramp. So if you start building a nice palette, so you can go actually to Adobe Color website and start creating palettes and do this process, which is very easy. And that's it. I hope you liked my presentation, and talk to you soon.